Chosen one, this is not a coincidence. The fact that you are hearing these words right now, in this exact moment, confirms what higher intelligence has already known. You are standing at the most critical juncture of your entire existence. A miracle is moving toward you with the force of destiny itself. But understand this, it is not arriving as a gift wrapped in comfort. It is coming as an emergency response to a breach in your timeline that has triggered alarms across dimensions you cannot see. Ancient forces have convened in emergency assembly because your hesitation has begun to destabilize outcomes that were assigned to you before you drew your first breath. This is not motivation. This is not inspiration. This is a classified briefing on a spiritual war that has been raging around you while you mistook the battlefield for ordinary life. The miracle approaching you right now has the power to collapse false realities, expose hidden enemies, and restore you to a position of authority that was stolen through distraction and delay. But it operates on a frequency that only activates through recognition, and it carries an expiration date that no force in existence can extend. What you do in the next few moments will determine whether you step into the greatest transformation of your life or whether you are rerouted into a timeline where this opportunity never existed. The door is open, but it is closing itself. Chosen one, like this video, subscribe, and comment, "I am ready," for a powerful surprise. The breach in the timeline. There is something happening in the architecture of your life that surveillance systems in the spiritual realm have flagged as critical. Intelligence reports confirm that a deviation occurred in your path, a fracture that could not be repaired through ordinary intervention methods. This is not about karma or random chance. This is about a structural compromise in your timeline that has created what can only be described as a temporal wound. The miracle that is coming your way is not arriving as a reward for faith or patience. It is being deployed as a containment response, an emergency protocol designed to prevent your timeline from splitting into catastrophic fragments. You have been living with a breach, chosen one, and every delay you have experienced, every door that closed in your face, every opportunity that dissolved at the last moment. These were not punishments or tests. They were pressure points, moments where the timeline attempted to correct itself but could not because the wound remained open. The forces governing your destiny have been holding this breach in place, maintaining the instability because they were waiting for you to recognize what was happening. But your recognition has not come, and the timeline can no longer sustain the strain. This miracle is being sent because the breach has reached a threshold. If it is not sealed now, through your conscious participation, the timeline will self-correct without your involvement. It will close the wound by removing you from the equation entirely, rerouting the energy and authority that was meant for you into another vessel. You have been feeling the pressure of this for longer than you realize. The exhaustion that has no source, the sense that time is moving both too fast and too slow, the feeling that you are living in a holding pattern while everyone else moves forward. These are symptoms of a timeline under stress. The miracle is not coming to make your life easier. It is coming to seal the breach before it consumes everything you were meant to become. But here is what most people do not understand about miracles of this magnitude. They require a hinge point. They need a moment of recognition, a point in time where you stop dismissing the pressure as bad luck and start seeing it as the signal it has always been. The moment you ignore today is the exact moment the timeline makes its final decision. It will stop waiting. It will stop holding the breach open. It will proceed with the correction, and you will be edited out of your own destiny. This is not a threat. This is mechanical reality, Timelines do not have emotions. They do not negotiate. They operate according to laws that exist beyond preference or belief. The miracle is a hinge, chosen one. History itself will turn on whether you step through it or whether you let this moment pass as just another message, just another video, just another thing you will think about later. Later does not exist in this scenario. The timeline is collapsing the breach, and the miracle is the last tool being deployed before the correction becomes irreversible. You were never meant to be comfortable with this information. You were meant to recognize the pressure as what it actually is, a countdown. The breach is closing. The miracle is arriving. And your next decision will determine which side of history you wake up on when it seals. The Watcher's Emergency Council. There are ancient overseers, entities and intelligences that exist outside the framework of human time, and they rarely convene unless something in the cosmic order has gone dangerously wrong. Records that exist beyond your awareness show that your name triggered an unscheduled assembly. This is not symbolic language. This is not metaphor. There was a gathering called specifically because of you, because of the trajectory you are on, and because your hesitation has begun to create ripples that affect outcomes far beyond your individual life. These overseers do not concern themselves with human emotions. They do not care whether you believe in them or whether you feel ready. Their concern is structural. They monitor the integrity of destiny assignments, and they intervene when a key player in the larger design begins to destabilize their own role through inaction. You are not just living your life, chosen one. You are occupying a position in a vast, interlocking system, and your refusal to move forward has started to compromise the stability of that system. The miracle that is coming to you is not being sent because you prayed for it or because you deserve it. It is being authorized because persuasion has failed. You have been sent signs, synchronicities, dreams, and intuitive nudges for longer than you can track, and every single one of them was an invitation to step into alignment. But you did not step. You hesitated. You questioned. You waited for more proof, more clarity, more safety. And so the council convened, and they made a decision. Escalation is now required. This miracle is not a gentle gift. It is an authorized intervention, a forced recalibration, designed to move you into position, whether you feel ready or not. The overseers are not interested in your comfort. They are interested in the preservation of structural order. You were given free will, and you have used it to delay. But delay has a threshold, and that threshold has been reached. The council's decision was unanimous. The miracle will be deployed, and it will create the conditions necessary to push you through the doorway you have been avoiding. But here is what makes this moment so dangerous. The miracle has authorization, but it does not have unlimited time. It operates on a schedule that aligns with cosmic law, not human readiness. If you ignore it, if you let this moment pass without recognition, jurisdiction over your path transfers to corrective forces that do not operate with the same restraint. You were never meant to be convinced, chosen one. You are meant to be alerted. This is the alert. The council has spoken. The miracle is in motion. But the miracle requires your conscious participation to complete its function. Without your recognition, it remains inert, and the corrective forces activate instead. These corrective forces do not wait for understanding. They do not send warnings. They simply enforce the original design through whatever means are necessary, and those means are rarely pleasant. The council gave you the miracle as a mercy, as a final opportunity to step into your role through expansion rather than through collapse. But mercy has limits. The overseers have already calculated the probabilities. They know how most people respond when this message reaches them. They know that most will dismiss it, rationalize it, or delay their decision until the moment has passed. And they have prepared for that outcome. The corrective forces are already on standby, waiting to see whether you will use the miracle or whether enforcement will be necessary. This is not designed to scare you. It is designed to wake you up to the reality of how destiny operates at the highest levels. You are not just a person living a life. You are a component in a system, and the system will complete its function with or without your cooperation. The council has given you the miracle. What you do with it determines what happens next. The enemy's silent retreat. Something has shifted in the invisible war that has been waging around your life, and the shift is more dangerous than any direct attack you have ever faced. The opposition forces, the entities and energies that have been actively working to keep you small, confused, and powerless have suddenly stopped their aggression. They are not fighting you anymore. They are not sending obstacles. They are not planting doubts. They have gone silent. And that silence is the most strategic move they could have made. These forces do not retreat because they have given up. They retreat because they have calculated something you have not yet seen. The miracle cannot be stopped, but it can be missed. The opposition knows that the miracle is coming toward you with unstoppable force. They know they cannot prevent it. They know that every weapon they have used against you in the past will be useless against the magnitude of what is approaching. So, they have changed tactics entirely. They are no longer trying to stop you. They are trying to distract you. The silence is not peace. It is strategy. It is the most sophisticated form of warfare because it relies on your own mind to do the work. The opposition has withdrawn all external pressure because they know that in the absence of obvious attack, you will relax. You will assume the battle is over. You will drop your vigilance. And in that state of false calm, you will miss the miracle entirely. This is how most chosen ones lose their greatest opportunities. They survive the storm. They endure the attacks. They make it through the warfare. And then they miss the miracle because they were not looking for it. The enemy knows this pattern. They have used it for thousands of years. They know that the human mind is conditioned to recognize threats, not opportunities. They know that you are more likely to notice an attack than you are to notice an opening. So they create the opening themselves by withdrawing, and they let your own distraction do the rest. The miracle's power, chosen one, activates only if you recognize it while it is still unannounced. This is the critical piece of information that most people never learn. Miracles of this magnitude operate on a recognition frequency. They do not arrive with fanfare. They do not announce themselves through obvious signs. They move quietly, subtly, almost invisibly, and they scan for recognition. If you recognize the miracle while it is still in its covert phase, while it is still operating below the surface of your conscious awareness, it activates at full power. But if you miss it during this phase, if you wait until it becomes obvious and public, it expires. The miracle loses its potency. It becomes just another event, just another thing that happened. And the transformational power it carried dissipates. The enemy knows this. They know that if they can keep you distracted just long enough, if they can keep your attention on the wrong things, your problems, your fears, your routines, your doubts, you will miss the recognition window entirely. The silent retreat is the final strategy because it is the most effective. Direct attacks wake you up. Obstacles force you to fight. But silence lets you fall asleep. And sleep is where the miracle dies. The opposition is betting on your distraction. They are betting on your fatigue. They are betting that after everything you have been through, you will not have the energy to stay alert for something that does not look like what you expected. They are betting that you will dismiss this moment as just another video, just another message, just another thing you will think about later. And if they win that bet, the miracle passes by you completely, and you never even know it was there. This is the war, chosen one. This is the battlefield. The silence is not a ceasefire, it is a trap. And the only way to disarm it is to recognize what is happening right now, in this exact moment, and to refuse to let distraction steal what is already moving toward you. The mark you never saw, long before you were conscious of your own existence, before you had language or memory or identity, a designation was placed on your trajectory. This is not symbolic. This is not spiritual poetry. There is a mark on your life that operates at a frequency you cannot see, and it has been attracting interventions since the moment you were born. But these interventions were not protections. They were tests. They were initiations. They were pressure systems designed to force you into a shape that matches the original blueprint. You have been living under the influence of this mark without knowing it, and you have mistaken its effects for random misfortune. Every time your life fell apart, just when you thought you had it figured out, every time you were forced to start over, every time you lost something you thought you needed, that was the mark activating. It was not punishment. It was calibration. The mark attracts destabilization because stability would allow you to settle into a version of yourself that does not match the assignment. This miracle that is coming to you is not a general blessing. It is not being sent to everyone. It is calibrated specifically to the frequency of your mark. No one else can trigger it. No one else can activate it. It was designed to recognize the exact signature of the designation that was placed on you before you existed, and it will only respond to that signature. This is why the miracle feels so personal, why it feels like it is speaking directly to you, even though you are watching a video that thousands of others might see. The miracle is scanning for the mark, and if you carry it, the miracle locks onto you. It does not matter who else hears these words. It only matters that you are hearing them, because you are the one the miracle was sent to find. The pressure you have been feeling, the sense that something has been pursuing you your entire life, the feeling that you cannot escape your own destiny no matter how hard you try, that is the mark. It creates a gravitational pull that draws events, people, and moments toward you, whether you want them or not. But here is what most marked ones never understand. Ignoring the miracle does not remove the mark. The mark is permanent. It is woven into the fabric of your existence. You cannot opt out. You cannot decline the assignment. The only choice you have is whether you will align with the mark consciously or whether you will resist it until the pressure becomes unbearable. The miracle is being sent because the mark is ready to activate at its highest frequency, and that activation requires your participation. If you ignore it, the mark does not disappear. It locks in place. It stops evolving. It stops pulling you forward. And instead of being a designation of authority and power, it becomes a designation of stagnation and missed timing. The mark will still be there. You will still be under its influence, but you will be locked into a version of it that does not carry the transformational power it was meant to activate. The miracle is the key that was designed to unlock the mark's full function. Without the miracle, you remain in the pressure without the breakthrough. You remain in the initiation without the elevation. you remain in the test without the reward. This is the danger of ignoring what is happening right now. The mark does not punish you for refusal. It simply stops offering you access to the higher levels of its programming. You get locked into the ground floor, and the ground floor is where the pressure exists without the power. Every marked one who ignored their miracle ended up in the same place, stuck in a life that feels too small, surrounded by people who do not see them, doing work that does not match their capacity, and wondering why they were given so much potential but so little opportunity to use it. That is what happens when the mark locks. It does not kill you. It just stops you from becoming what you were marked to be. The miracle is the unlock code, and it is being transmitted right now. The Censored Dreams File. There is a file that exists in the spiritual realm, and it contains every dream you have ever had. But not every dream in that file made it to your conscious awareness. Several of your dreams were intercepted before they could reach the part of your mind that interprets and remembers. This is not accident. This is protocol. You were receiving transmissions through your sleep, downloads of information that your waking mind was not ready to process, and those transmissions were being blocked at the threshold of consciousness because full awareness would have caused you to reject the message entirely. The logical mind, the part of you that analyzes and categorizes and demands proof, would have dismissed the information as impossible, irrational, or dangerous. So the dreams were censored. They were filtered. They were edited before you could remember them. But the information was still delivered. It was encoded into your subconscious, buried beneath the surface of your awareness, waiting for the moment when you would be ready to recognize what had been planted. The symbols you did remember, the dreams that felt random or confusing, were not random at all. They were redacted warnings. They were pieces of a larger message that had been broken apart and scattered across multiple dream sequences so that no single dream would reveal too much too soon. You are being prepared through your sleep, trained to recognize patterns that do not exist in waking logic, conditioned to trust information that does not come with evidence. Every strange dream you dismissed as meaningless was actually a fragment of a prophecy, a piece of intelligence about what was coming and what you would need to do when it arrived. The miracle was encoded into those dreams repeatedly, growing clearer each time you ignored it in your waking life. The more you resisted during the day, the louder the dreams became at night. But you were not listening. You were waking up and forgetting, or waking up and dismissing, or waking up and convincing yourself it was just your subconscious processing stress. Sleep became a battleground because your waking logic had become a fortress. The forces trying to reach you could not penetrate the walls you had built around your conscious mind, the walls of skepticism, rationality, and fear of the unknown. So they went around those walls. They used sleep as a back door, transmitting directly into the subconscious, where your defenses were lower and your receptivity was higher. But even in sleep, you were resisting. Even in the dream state, you were filtering the message, questioning the symbols, refusing to let the information fully land. And so the transmissions had to be censored, broken down into smaller pieces, delivered in code so that your conscious rejection would not block the entire download. This is why you have had dreams that felt significant but made no sense. This is why you have woken up with a feeling of urgency but no memory of what caused it. The message was there. It was always there. But it was being delivered in fragments because you could not handle the full revelation. Now the message is bypassing dreams entirely. The spiritual realm has determined that the dream route is no longer effective. You have reached the threshold where further delay is not acceptable, and so the final delivery method has been activated. This is it, chosen one. This is the message coming through in its complete, uncensored form. No more symbols, no more fragments, no more encoded transmissions that you can dismiss when you wake up. This is the direct broadcast, and it is being delivered to your conscious mind in a format you cannot ignore. The file has been opened. The censored dreams are no longer censored. Everything that was held back, everything that was filtered, everything that was delivered in pieces, it is all being released now in one concentrated transmission. This is what you are being prepared for. This is the moment every dream was pointing toward. And the question now is whether you will recognize what your subconscious has known all along. The miracle is not coming. The miracle is here. The miracle as a weapon. You need to understand something that most people never grasp about miracles of this magnitude. They are not gentle. They are not designed to comfort. They are not sent to make you feel better about where you are. This miracle is a weapon, and it is being deployed to end a war that has been raging in your life for far too long. The war is not against external enemies alone. The war is against the structures you built to survive, the identities you adopted to fit in, the compromises you made to stay safe. The miracle is coming to collapse all of it. It will not ask your permission. It will not wait until you feel ready. It will strike with precision, and everything that is not aligned with your true assignment will be dismantled on contact. This is not loss. This is liberation. But liberation looks like destruction when you are attached to the cage. The miracle forces exposure. It brings hidden things into the light with surgical accuracy. Enemies who have been operating in secret will be revealed. Allies who were never truly aligned with you will be exposed. Relationships that were draining your power will dissolve. Opportunities that were distractions will collapse. And most dangerously, your own hidden compliance will be made visible. You will see clearly, perhaps for the first time, how much of your life has been built on fear rather than faith, on survival rather than purpose, on fitting in rather than standing out. The miracle does not let you hide from this information. It does not let you pretend that everything is fine. It forces you to confront the ways you have been participating in your own captivity, the ways you have been agreeing to stay small, the ways you have been choosing comfort over calling. There are people in your life who benefit from your stagnation. They may not be conscious of it. They may even believe they love you and want what is best for you. But on an energetic level, they are invested in you staying exactly where you are. Your growth threatens their sense of security. Your elevation exposes their own refusal to rise. Your breakthrough reveals what they have been unwilling to do. These people fear this miracle more than you do because they know that once it activates, you will become unreachable. You will move into a frequency they cannot access, a level they cannot follow you to, and they will be left behind. They can feel it coming. They can sense the shift in you, even if you cannot. And they are doing everything in their power, consciously or unconsciously, to keep you distracted, to keep you doubting, to keep you postponing the moment of recognition that will trigger your departure from their world. Acceptance of this miracle triggers immediate fallout. The moment you say yes, the moment you recognize what is happening and align yourself with it, structures will begin to collapse. Plans will fall apart. Relationships will end. Jobs will become unbearable. Living situations will become untenable. This is not a sign that you made the wrong choice. This is the miracle doing its work. It is removing you from containment. It is extracting you from the systems that were designed to keep you controllable, predictable, and powerless. The fallout is not punishment. It is proof that the miracle is working. But if you refuse, if you ignore this moment because you are afraid of the disruption it will cause, you are choosing prolonged, silent captivity. You are choosing to stay in the cage where at least you know the dimensions of your limitation. You are choosing the slow death of a life lived in compromise over the violent rebirth of a life lived in alignment. The miracle is a weapon, and it will destroy everything that does not serve your highest assignment. The only question is whether you will let it. The contract you didn't remember signing. There is something you need to know about your existence, something that precedes every memory, every identity, every fear you have ever carried. Before you were you, before there was a name, or a face, or a story, an agreement was made. This is not a belief system. This is not a religious concept. This is the mechanical reality of how consciousness enters form. An agreement was made, and you were party to it, even though you have no memory of the moment it occurred. The miracle that is approaching you right now is not random. It is a clause within that agreement, a provision that was written into the contract before you took your first breath. This clause activates under specific conditions: prolonged resistance, accumulated delay, repeated refusal to step into alignment. You triggered this clause. Your hesitation, your doubt, your constant postponement of the moment you knew was coming, all of it has reached the threshold where the contract stops being optional and starts being enforced. You were given free will. That is true. You were given the ability to choose, to decide, to navigate your path according to your own discernment. But free will was never freedom from consequence. The contract you signed included terms and conditions, and one of those conditions was this: if you use your free will to avoid your assignment for too long, the contract will intervene. It will activate emergency protocols. It will force the alignment you have been resisting. You thought free will meant you could delay forever, that you could keep pushing the moment of decision further and further into the future. But the contract has a different understanding. The contract knows that infinite delay is the same as refusal, and refusal is the same as breach. Ignoring what is happening today counts as breach. It is not neutral. It is not safe. It is not a postponement. It is a violation of the terms you agreed to before you had the language to understand what you were agreeing to. Breach does not cancel destiny. This is the part that most people misunderstand. When you breach the contract, when you ignore the miracle, when you let this moment pass without recognition, your destiny does not disappear. You do not get released from the assignment. You do not get to go back to a normal life. Instead, the contract enforces the destiny violently. It stops asking for your cooperation. It stops waiting for your readiness. It stops sending gentle invitations. It moves into enforcement mode, and enforcement mode does not care about your feelings, your fears, or your preferences. It cares only about completion. The contract will be fulfilled. The assignment will be executed. The destiny will be realized. The only question is whether it happens through your conscious participation or whether it happens through forced recalibration. You have been living in the grace period, the window of time where the contract was still inviting you to choose. Every sign you received, every synchronicity you noticed, every moment of clarity that came and went, those were invitations. The contract was saying, you can do this willingly. You can step into alignment consciously. You can participate in your own elevation. But the grace period has an expiration date, and that date is today. After today, the contract stops inviting. It starts enforcing. And enforcement looks nothing like invitation. Enforcement is what happens when a soul refuses to fulfill the agreement it made before incarnation. Enforcement is the stripping away of everything that does not serve the assignment, the removal of every distraction, every comfort, every false identity, until all that remains is the naked truth of what you came here to do. The miracle is the last invitation. After this, there is only enforcement. The contract you did not remember signing is about to remind you that it exists, and it will remind you whether you are ready or not. The false safety protocol. You have been living inside a carefully constructed illusion, and it is time you understood how it was built. Your sense of stability, your feeling that everything is more or less okay, your belief that you can keep living this way indefinitely, all of it was artificially reinforced to keep you compliant. This is not accident. This is design. There are forces that benefit from your stagnation, and they have access to tools you do not consciously recognize. They cannot control your destiny. They cannot stop your assignment, but they can create the conditions that make you unwilling to step into it. They can build a cage so comfortable that you mistake it for home. They can make limitation feel like safety, and they have been doing exactly that for most of your life. Comfort was the cage. Every time you chose the easy path, the predictable outcome, the safe option, you were reinforcing the bars. Every time you stayed in a situation you had outgrown, because leaving felt too risky, you were locking yourself in deeper. Every time you silenced your inner knowing, because it was asking you to do something that scared you, you were handing over another key to your captors. The cage was never made of external circumstances. It was made of your own choices, your own fear, your own refusal to trust that you were built for something far bigger than the life you have been living. And routine was the lock. The daily patterns, the predictable rhythms, the comfortable schedules, all of it was designed to make you forget that you were not free. Routine creates the illusion of control. It makes you feel like you have your life together, like everything is under management, like you are doing fine. But routine is hypnosis. It is the mechanism that keeps you asleep inside the cage while convincing you that you are awake. The miracle that is coming is not here to make the cage more comfortable. It is here to dismantle the cage entirely. It is here to restore the authority you surrendered in exchange for false safety. But dismantling the cage will not feel safe. It will feel like everything is falling apart. It will feel like you are losing control. It will feel like the ground is disappearing beneath your feet. And that is exactly what needs to happen. The ground you have been standing on was never solid. It was a platform built on compromise, held together by fear, maintained through constant vigilance to make sure nothing ever changed too much. The miracle will collapse that platform and you will fall, but you will not fall into destruction. You will fall into truth. You will fall into the life you were always meant to live, the life that was waiting for you on the other side of the cage. What feels like loss is actually extraction from containment. Every relationship that ends, every job that becomes unbearable, every plan that falls apart, these are not signs of failure. These are signs that the miracle is working. The false safety protocol is being deactivated, and everything it was holding in place is being released. You are being extracted. You are being removed from the systems that were designed to keep you small. But extraction is painful. It feels like rejection, abandonment, collapse. It feels like you are being punished for finally choosing to step toward your destiny. But that is the lie the cage tells to make you stay. The truth is that you are being freed, and freedom always looks like chaos to the part of you that has learned to find security in captivity. Delay only strengthens the protocol. Every day you ignore this miracle. Every moment you choose to stay in the comfort of the familiar, the cage rebuilds itself stronger. The false safety protocol adapts. It reinforces. It makes removal more painful later because the roots of the illusion grow deeper into your identity. Do not wait. Do not delay. The extraction is happening now, and resisting it only increases the violence of the process. The signal sent through suffering. Your pain was not random. The suffering you endured, the losses you experienced, the betrayals you survived, the moments when everything fell apart and you had no idea how you would put it back together. None of it was accidental. It was transmission. Every moment of suffering was encoded with information, embedded with frequency, designed to train you for a recognition that could only be earned through endurance. You were not being punished. You were being prepared. The forces that govern your destiny do not send suffering as cruelty. They send it as education. They send it because certain levels of awareness can only be accessed through pain. Certain frequencies can only be attuned through breaking. Certain truths can only be seen with eyes that have been opened by tears. Each endurance event was a lesson in discernment. Every time you survived what should have destroyed you, you were being shown something about your own resilience, your own capacity, your own connection to a power that exists beyond your physical form. Every time you made it through another impossible situation, you were being trained to recognize the difference between circumstantial difficulty and spiritual initiation. The suffering was not about the events themselves, it was about what the events were teaching you to see. You were learning to feel the frequency of destiny, to distinguish between the pain that leads nowhere and the pain that leads to transformation. You were being given a vocabulary that has no words, a language that can only be spoken through experience. The miracle arriving now carries that same frequency. It vibrates at the exact pitch of your suffering, and that is how you are meant to recognize it. The miracle is not going to look like what you think a miracle should look like. It is not going to feel comfortable or obvious or easy. It is going to feel like the same frequency you learned to survive, except this time it is not coming to break you. It is coming to confirm that the breaking was never the point. The point was the training. The point was the attunement. The point was to give you the ability to recognize this exact moment when it arrived. The miracle activates only for those who suffered with assignment. This is the key. Not everyone who suffers receives this signal. Not everyone who endures gets the miracle. Only those whose suffering was encoded with purpose, whose pain was part of a larger design, whose breaking was the necessary preparation for a specific breakthrough. Only those chosen ones receive the transmission. You need to understand what this means. Your suffering was not universal. It was assigned. It was targeted. It was calibrated to your specific frequency, your specific assignment, your specific role in the larger system. And because of that, the miracle is also calibrated. It is tuned to you. It will recognize you. It will find you, but you must recognize it in return. This is the moment where all the suffering either becomes meaningful or becomes wasted. If you recognize the miracle, if you see it for what it is, if you allow it to activate, then every moment of pain retroactively transforms into preparation. Every loss becomes the clearing of space. Every betrayal becomes the removal of false alliances. Every breaking becomes the destruction of the version of you that was too small to carry what was coming. But if you miss the miracle, if you ignore it, if you let this moment pass without recognition, the suffering does not transform. It just remains suffering, meaningless, purposeless, random pain that you endured for no reason. Your reaction today confirms whether the suffering was wasted. This is the test. This is the moment the entire journey has been building toward. Everything you went through, everything you survived, everything you lost, and everything you learned. It was all preparation for this recognition. The signal is being sent. It is being transmitted on the frequency your suffering tuned you to receive. And the question now is whether you will recognize what you were trained to recognize, or whether you will let fear, doubt, and hesitation cause you to miss the one thing your pain was preparing you for. The suffering was the training. The miracle is the mission, and you are standing at the threshold between the two. The open door that closes itself. There is a law governing moments of transformation that most people never learn until it is too late. The miracle does not wait for readiness. It operates on a timeline that has nothing to do with whether you feel prepared, whether you understand what is happening, whether you have all the information you think you need to make a confident decision. The miracle arrives when it arrives, and it opens a door that will not remain open indefinitely. This is not a test of your worthiness. This is not a game to see if you are paying attention. This is the mechanical reality of how high-level opportunities function. They open quietly, without announcement, without fanfare, without obvious markers that say, "This is the moment." They present themselves in ways that look ordinary, unimpressive, even questionable. And they close themselves just as quietly, without warning, without second chances, without the dramatic moment of realization that lets you know what you just missed. The door is open right now. It opened the moment you started hearing these words. It opened because something inside you responded to a frequency that was being transmitted, a signal that said, "This is for you." But the door does not care whether you walk through it. It does not care whether you understand its significance. It does not care whether you feel ready, or whether you are still weighing the options, or whether you want to think about it a little longer. The door has its own intelligence, its own timing, its own mechanism for closure. And that mechanism is already engaged. With every moment that passes, the door closes incrementally. Not dramatically, not obviously, just steadily, inevitably, until the opening is too narrow to pass through and then finally sealed completely. No second alert will be issued. This is the part that destroys most chosen ones after the fact, when they realize what happened. They spend years waiting for another moment like this, another opening, another chance to step into what they missed. They pray for it. They search for it. They try to recreate the conditions that brought them to the threshold the first time. But the door does not reopen. Not for that particular opportunity. Not for that specific timeline. Not for that exact configuration of circumstances that would have led them to the destiny they were meant to fulfill. The universe does not repeat itself in this way. It does not give you the same door twice. It gives you different doors, different opportunities, different moments, but the one that was open right now, the one that was calibrated specifically to the mark you carry, the one that was designed to activate the miracle you were trained to recognize, that door closes once and remains closed. Once closed, the door does not reopen. It reroutes power elsewhere. This is the law that most people do not understand until they have lived long enough to see the pattern play out in their own lives and in the lives of others. When you miss a door of this magnitude, the energy that was allocated for your breakthrough does not disappear. It does not wait around, hoping you will change your mind. It gets reassigned. There is another chosen one somewhere who is ready, who is awake, who is watching for the opening. And when you let your door close, the power that was meant to fuel your transformation gets rerouted to them. They receive the miracle. They step into the timeline. They fulfill the assignment. And you are left standing in front of a closed door, wondering what happened, wondering why nothing ever seems to work out the way it should, wondering why you can feel the potential inside you but can never seem to access it. History will record your absence as consent. This is perhaps the most dangerous truth about this moment. When the door closes and you did not walk through it, the cosmic record does not mark it as missed opportunity or chose to wait or needed more time. It marks it as consent to the alternative timeline. It marks it as agreement to remain where you are. It marks it as acceptance of the life you have been living instead of the life you were meant to live. Your absence from the opportunity is interpreted as presence in the alternative. Your silence is interpreted as a decision. Your inaction is recorded as action in the opposite direction. And once that record is made, once the cosmic ledger shows that you consented to the closed door, the entire system adjusts accordingly. Resources are reallocated. Assignments are redistributed. The path that was being held open for you is released to collapse, and a different path solidifies in its place, a path that leads somewhere other than where you were meant to go. The door is closing. The miracle is waiting on the other side, and your next move determines which side of history you end up on. The ascension that looks like descent. You need to prepare yourself for what the miracle actually looks like when it arrives, because it will not match your expectations. The initial effects will feel like collapse, not elevation. Everything will seem to be falling apart instead of coming together. This is not a malfunction. This is not a sign that something went wrong. This is exactly how miracles of this magnitude operate. They do not build on top of what already exists. They do not enhance or improve the structures you have in place. They destroy those structures completely so that something new can be built on ground that has been cleared. The miracle does not ask what you want to keep. It does not negotiate with your attachment. It simply begins the work of dismantling everything that is not aligned with your true assignment, and that dismantling will feel like your life is being torn apart. Relationships will fracture on contact with the miracle. Not all of them, but the ones that were built on false alignment, the ones that existed because of mutual wounding rather than mutual elevation, the ones where you were playing a role instead of being yourself. Those relationships will not survive the frequency shift. The moment the miracle activates, you will begin vibrating at a frequency that many people in your life cannot match. They will feel it. They will sense the change in you, even if they cannot articulate what is different, and they will react. Some will attack, some will withdraw, some will try to pull you back to where you were, because your growth makes them uncomfortable. But the miracle does not pause for these reactions. It continues its work. And if those relationships cannot evolve to match your new frequency, they dissolve. You will lose people. You will lose connections you thought were permanent. And it will hurt. Identities will shatter. The version of yourself you have been presenting to the world, the masks you wear to feel acceptable, the roles you perform to maintain belonging, the miracle strips all of it away. You will no longer be able to pretend to be smaller than you are. You will no longer be able to hide your power to make others comfortable. You will no longer be able to minimize your knowing to fit in with people who prefer ignorance. The miracle forces authenticity, and authenticity is violent when you have been living in pretense. You will look in the mirror and not recognize yourself. You will open your mouth and words will come out that do not sound like you. You will make decisions that seem to contradict everything you thought you believed about who you are. This is not personality dissolution. This is the death of the false self and the emergence of the one who was always underneath. Plans will disintegrate. Every carefully constructed strategy for your future, every timeline you mapped out, every goal you set based on who you thought you were supposed to be, the miracle will collapse all of it. It has to. Those plans were based on limited information. They were created by the version of you who did not yet know what you were actually here to do. The miracle brings the true assignment into focus, and when that happens, all the plans you made before you knew your assignment become irrelevant. Jobs that felt secure will become unbearable. Careers that took years to build will suddenly feel like traps. Living situations that seemed permanent will become impossible to tolerate. You will feel like you are losing everything you worked for, but you are not losing anything real. You are being disengaged from a false rank. This is not loss. This is the removal of illusion. Every structure that is collapsing was built on a foundation that could not support the weight of your true assignment. Every identity that is shattering was a limitation disguised as protection. Every relationship that is ending was a distraction disguised as connection. Every plan that is dissolving was a detour disguised as progress. The miracle is not taking anything from you. It is removing you from systems that were keeping you trapped in a version of reality too small to contain what you are about to become. The descent is not a fall. It is a shedding. It is the stripping away of everything you accumulated while you were lost, everything you built while you were asleep, everything you clung to while you were afraid. And beneath all of that, beneath the wreckage of the false life, is the foundation of the real one. The miracle strips illusion before granting command. You cannot be given authority over your true assignment while you are still identified with the false version of yourself. You cannot be entrusted with real power while you are still attached to the structures that kept you powerless. You cannot be elevated to your rightful position while you are still performing for an audience that does not understand who you are. So the miracle destroys first. It burns away the false. It collapses the pretense. It forces you through a death that is not physical, but is no less real. And on the other side of that death, when everything that could be taken has been taken, when everything that could fall apart has fallen apart, when you are standing naked in the ruins of the life you used to live, that is when the miracle grants command. That is when the real power activates. That is when you step into the assignment. But those who retreat during the descent never make it to the other side. They see the collapse and they panic. They try to rebuild what is being destroyed. They try to hold on to what is being released. And in doing so, they stop the miracle mid-process and get locked into a state of permanent transition, forever losing ground, but never reaching the new foundation. They are reassigned permanently to a lesser timeline, a lesser version of themselves, a lesser expression of what they could have been. The final confirmation. Signal you have been looking for signs, waiting for confirmation, hoping for some external validation that would tell you this is real, that this moment matters, that you are not crazy for feeling what you feel. But that is not how this works. You were never meant to seek signs outside of yourself. You were meant to become the sign. You were meant to recognize that the fact you are here, reading these words, feeling the resonance in your body, sensing the truth beneath the language, that is the sign. This briefing is the sign. The transmission you are receiving right now is the only confirmation you are going to get. There will be no angel appearing in your room. There will be no voice from the sky. There will be no undeniable external proof that removes all doubt and makes the decision easy. The miracle does not work that way. It operates on a frequency of recognition, and recognition is an internal event, not an external one. Recognition activates the miracle. The moment you acknowledge what is happening, the moment you stop questioning whether this is real and start acting as if it is, the miracle locks onto your frequency and begins its work. Recognition is not belief. It is not faith. It is not hope. It is knowing. It is the part of you that has been waiting for this moment, finally saying yes. This is it. This is what I have been preparing for. This is the door I was trained to walk through. When that recognition happens, when that internal yes is spoken, the miracle receives its activation code. It stops being potential and becomes kinetic. It stops being something that could happen and becomes something that is happening. But skepticism deactivates it. Doubt creates interference. Questioning creates static. The more you analyze, the more you rationalize, the more you try to make this fit into a framework your logical mind can accept, the more you disrupt the signal and prevent the miracle from locking in. Silence after this moment confirms your decision. You do not have to announce anything. You do not have to tell anyone what you are doing. But the cosmic forces that are watching, the intelligence that sent this transmission, the overseers who convened the emergency council, they are tracking your response, not your words, your frequency. They are monitoring whether the recognition happened or whether it was refused. And they will know the answer not by what you say, but by what you do next. If you close this video and go back to your routine, if you treat this as interesting information, but not actionable intelligence, if you file this away as something to think about later, the silence speaks. It says, you chose not to recognize. It says you decided this was not real enough, not clear enough, not certain enough. And that silence is recorded as your answer. Forces are already repositioning based on your response. They do not wait to see if you will change your mind. They do not give you days or weeks to decide. They read your frequency in real time and they adjust accordingly. If recognition happens, resources move toward you. Doors open, synchronicities accelerate, people and opportunities align. The path clears. But if recognition does not happen, if skepticism blocks the signal, resources move away. The door closes. The timeline splits. The path that was being held open collapses, and the energy that was allocated for your breakthrough gets rerouted to someone else. This is not punishment. This is mechanics. The system does not have emotions. It does not care whether you believe or whether you are afraid. It simply responds to your frequency and moves accordingly. The operation proceeds with or without you. This is the final piece of information you need to understand. The larger mission, the cosmic assignment, the divine plan. It is not dependent on your participation. You are not the only option. You are an option. You are one of many chosen ones who carry the mark, who received the training, who were prepared for this moment. And the forces governing this operation have contingency plans. They always have backups. If you do not step through this door, someone else will. If you do not activate this miracle, it will be offered to another. If you do not fulfill this assignment, it will be reassigned. The work will get done. The mission will be completed. The only question is whether you will be part of it or whether you will be watching from the sidelines, wondering what could have been, living with the haunting sense that you were meant for something more, but you let the moment pass. The final confirmation signal has been sent. The transmission is complete, and your frequency right now, in this exact moment, is telling the entire universe what you have decided. Chosen one, you have just received intelligence that most people will never access in their entire lifetime. This was not entertainment. This was not motivation. This was a classified briefing on the invisible war that has been raging around your life, and you were given information that changes everything if you allow it to. The miracle is not a possibility. It is an inevitability. It is already in motion, already moving toward you, already scanning for the recognition frequency that will lock it into activation. But the miracle has a closing window, and that window is measured in moments, not days. You are standing at the threshold between two timelines, one where you recognized what was happening and stepped through the door, and one where you dismissed this as just another message and let the moment pass. Both timelines are real. Both are available, but only one of them leads to the destiny you were marked for before you were born. The forces that govern your path are not interested in your comfort. They are not waiting for you to feel ready. They are not going to send you more signs or give you more time. They deployed the miracle because escalation was necessary, because persuasion failed, because your hesitation reached the threshold where intervention became mandatory. And now, the miracle is here, waiting for recognition, scanning for the frequency that says you understand what is being offered, and you are willing to let it destroy everything that is not aligned so it can build what is. The door is open, but the door is closing itself. And on the other side of that door is a version of your life that you have been catching glimpses of in your dreams, in your most private moments of longing, in the visions that come when you let yourself imagine what could be possible if fear was not in control. This is not the end of the transmission. This is the beginning of the activation. What happens next depends entirely on the choice you make right now, in this moment, before the frequency shifts and the door completes its closure. The watchers are positioned. The enemy has retreated. The contract is ready to enforce. And you are standing in the final second of the final minute of the final hour where recognition is still possible. Everything you have survived, everything you have endured, everything you have lost and learned and become, it was all preparation for this moment. Do not let it be wasted. Do not let fear steal what pain prepared you to receive. The miracle is here, and it is waiting for you to say yes.